SBS Live this week returns with Rob at SBS. Of course, you know I'm Jer, but we're going to introduce the other half of what we do here today on the show. We're going to give them the same kind of interview style that the bands that come through here for interviews go through. It's not rehearsed. I'll admit, after watching it, some of it does seem like a commercial. I guess that's just kind of how it comes out. But you also have a lot of genuine stories and a lot of genuine laughs between the two of us. You get to see some genuine interaction and some really good insights and into why this partner of mine in this studio project, it has been so important to me. He's pretty much been there for me in every possible time you can imagine. And I probably don't give him enough credit when everything's all said and done. So, you know, to take this time in a full episode and really give him that moment to explain himself, to show you guys what he's capable of, I think that's important. I think that's it's good to hear it come from me. But at the same time, I think it's awesome to hear it come from him. So he's got a lot of great things to say, and I want to get into it as I always do. So we're going to return on SBS Live this week with Rob at SBS. We're going to have music from Singed. We're going to have music from The Pit. This episode is going to be awesome. I'm going to load it with music, and we're going to talk about some really cool stuff here that's happening at SBS. The future, the past, the present, how he got started at all being a friend with me, and my very first somewhat unfortunate glimpse into the world of Rob at SBS. So in addition to that, he'll take us on a studio tour, tell us a little bit about the control room, what he's capable of, what he can do Pro Tools wise, and we'll just keep it rolling from there. So welcome back to SBS Live. SBS Live returns with a special episode, one that is very important to us to communicate the other half of what goes on here at SBS. Behind the scenes, we have got Rob.
Welcome.
And he's here for the first time. So we're going to bust into the interview with him and figure out all kinds of things that are upcoming with SBS, what the project means to him personally, where his musical influences are coming from, and what he brings to the table. He's here all the time, but I thank him for his time anyway. Rob.
What's up, buddy?
Thanks, brother.
Good to be here.
Tell these people, from your perspective, because they've heard it from me, tell them where SBS kind of started for you and just kind of how it's developed over time.
It's kind of an idea that's been growing for better part of 10 years. We've been in a band together for a long time, and we've always tried to record music in whatever way we could. I would always be the one obsessed with the quality of the recording and trying to get better tools and toys than what we had. We started recording with a lapel mic for a computer in a box we built. I can't really explain it any better than that, but we've grown to a full-blown studio with all kinds of exciting equipment.
Now, when he says a box that we built, really what he means is a box that I came home one day to find that he had built in the middle of his old master bedroom and replaced with a just, you know, archaic music studio. So, I mean, really, the beginning of it started there in terms of you learning how to kind of produce music as well through different kind of programs as well, though, right?
Yeah, I used some pretty basic programs to begin with, and pretty quickly realized that Pro Tools was the way to go for digital editing, and ever since then I've had at least a rudimentary Pro Tools get up everywhere I've gone.
Right. So, like, how long has that been for real? Like, that you've been working through these different programs? Because I know you started at like GarageBand and different things like Cakewalk and whatnot.
I mean, I went to school for computer science, so I've always been really into different programming application suites and things like that. It was kind of a natural progression from things like Photoshop to programs like Cakewalk and Sonar and all kinds of everything under the sun, really. Right. Experimented with Macs and PCs and finally settled on PC with Pro Tools.
Right.
As my preferred method of choice.
Right. So, how about in like relation to your own musical influences? How do they play a part in what you do as far as like mix-wise goes when somebody comes here?
Well, I listen to music really in depth. I like well-produced, layered music. But I'm not bound to any genre or any style of recording. I'm intrigued by different methods that different producers use, and I read up on different techniques and things like that just to hear and be able to explain and conceptualize the different ideas they use to put together these tracks. Like, I don't generally listen to groups like The Strokes very much,
right,
but I'm obsessed with the production on their latest album, and I've read all I can about it because it's just really interesting to me. It sounds really separated and clean, like they're playing in a room with you, but it's a big room and everything is perfectly mixed. And they use tricks like setting the level of the vocals relative to the music to make the music sound big.
Okay.
A large mistake that is quite common among radio acts and top 40 and whatever else is to bury the music behind the vocals,
right,
which if you're Christina Aguilera, you want people to listen to your voice and not the music. But
right.
I love music. I love when sounds come together to form textures and atmospheres, and I feel like a lot of top 40 radio and things like that just skip the whole sound of the song, mm-hmm, and just work on putting a beat down to rap over or to sing over or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And that style of production is indicative of the things I don't like about music, okay, in general. Like, I don't like the me-ism and the putting up of yourself and, you know, making an image and celebrity culture and things like that.
Okay.
I feel like that gets away from the purity of music.
So, like, when you're saying that a band is kind of pursuing an image, like, more than focusing on the music per se.
Right, like if you're spending all your time, you know, doing PR and showing yourself up at clubs and whatever else, how can you be, you know, how can you love the music? And I'm sure there's people that can do all those things at once, but I seem to find a correlation in, like, how popular a celebrity musician is with the quality of their music. Mm-hmm. Like, the guys from Radiohead can still walk down the street and go to the local pub and have a beer.
Right.
But, I mean, they're just devoted to their music and their sound.
What do you think it does to the core of a band over time, though, when they're representing themselves that way, or they put themselves out there in the music that way, where they've got that, maybe the front man is obviously the focus 90% of the time, probably more like 99. Do you think that internally affects bands over time? How does that work?
Absolutely, it can affect bands in a negative way, because when you immerse yourself in the celebrity culture, you become susceptible to the celebrity arcs of popularity, and people's attention span is less than a second nowadays. Right. And when your popularity is tied to your public image, people get bored really quickly and they move on, regardless of what you sound like and what your music sounds like. I mean,
yeah. So in term, like, how about maybe tie that into the show? Because we've, as far as criticism goes, we've taken a bit as well. It's mostly concerned with length itself. We get quite a few responses about our show being almost an hour and a half for an independent artist. You know, people that are typically unknown. You know, and that's something that, you know, obviously I feel very strongly about, is getting that word out there and treating these people with the respect that their music deserves. So, I mean, is it possible, are we getting out there to enough of these people with this length? Is that appealing to people?
It's, honestly, sadly, it's probably not. Right. But, I mean, I want the content length to be there for the main reason that, like, if your attention span is 2 minutes, then watch 2 minutes and move on.
Right.
Like, but if you are into the band and you're into finding out what they sound like, what they're about, what they think, then it's there, and you can't accomplish that in a 10-minute interview or a 5-minute interview.
Right.
You know, you can touch on a bunch of points lightly, or you can get in depth on one or two things in a short interview. Mm-hmm. But, you know, full-length interview, you can get in depth on all kinds of stuff.
So in terms of the independent artist, we've heard multiple times that they don't have the time to represent themselves, or they don't have the hours after work because they're regular people. You know, how is it that this kind of thing that we're doing now is helping these artists through what we do?
Well, I mean, it's like you said, people just don't have time, and I think it actually has a lot to do with the economic situation in the last 5 years and things like that. We're seeing people not being able to make ends meet working two
Right.
jobs. And I mean, how can you possibly support the creative process of a band, practicing, and find time to record, mm-hmm. and still, like, with selling anything, your own music or encyclopedias door to door, you knock on 100 doors and you hope to get one response.
Right.
And that's what you have to do to market yourself and to advertise yourself. You might have to show up at 100 recording studios or, you know, record labels to get one sniff of interest, and mm-hmm. people just don't have the time.
Mm-hmm. So, is it unique at all what we're doing, or at least in terms of the show, have we made it different enough that, I mean, we've obviously been contacted by different bands, like we've talked to Nixie, they're coming up, you know that.
Excited about Nixie.
Obviously, we've got Singed, you know, happened just last week, and that was super awesome.
Great job on their video. I'm really excited to see the footage. I've seen a lot of raw footage of this stuff, and you guys are going to have your minds blown. You've already had your minds blown, because that's going to air before this, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what he's saying. You do know what he's saying because you were there and you watched it. So go into that a little bit with us. Let's take us right into the heart of SBS Live, because you talked about genres before. As there, and we like that. That's something that we talk about. We talk about how we want to bring music itself out there to the people, and it's out for them, what they want to do with it. Hey, we've done our job, and we appreciate that. So how about yourself, though? Like, has there been anybody that you can think of that maybe you might not have listened to before, or you just haven't been listening to that genre lately, and you ended up like, okay, it's time to listen to this again because of these guys?
Well, yeah, there's a pretty bold example of that. I mean, I listen to music across all genres. There's different reasons I listen to music, and any different genre can have those reasons for me. Okay. But there tends to be certain genres I listen to more heavily than others, right, because they contain it. I don't know. They seem to contain more bands in that sound that I enjoy. Those values that you're looking for consistently. Exactly. Yeah. And I do listen to heavier music on occasion, mm-hmm. But because I'm such an audiophile, I'm always listening for quality of sonic texture, how a band comes together to form a sound. Okay. Like, I enjoy the sounds of different instruments, but really music is about when instruments come together to form something better than the sum of their parts. Right. And a huge example of that for me was The Pit. I mean, I don't normally listen to really heavy music, but there are some bands I'm really into. These guys put a wall of sound out there, and they did it with great attention to their texture, in their vocals, in their music.
Right.
It was extremely intense, and they built an atmosphere, and an atmosphere is what I'm into when I'm into music. So, I mean, their show was amazing, and their music is great. I'm listening to heavy music because of them right now, and that's not typical.
Which is good. I mean, you know, we like to sample it out, and I think it's also good for you guys to see as well. You know that I've heavily endorsed this band. But again, we represent a unit as one, just like you do out there with your music and in your bands. So that's what this is through SBS for us. A way of life, just like you guys do out there every day making your music. So it's very important to, at least, you know, we all know that I'm going to be out there and enthusiastic. That's what I'm supposed to do as the face of SBS Live. But this guy, he's actually got a more bearded face than I do right now. But this guy, you know, you haven't seen his opinion yet, and it's important to know it's not an endorsement. This is the honest truth. I know what this guy listens to. I mean, give us a few examples of other bands you listen to, right, you know, that are outside the rock genre. Expand it as far as you can go.
I'm into bands that create sonic texture, like I said earlier, and Sigur Rós is another example of a band in a genre that I typically don't listen to.
Okay.
That builds the most incredible atmosphere. When I saw them live, I had never listened to their CD. I hadn't heard a single recorded song except when I watched the Vanilla Sky soundtrack.
Right.
And when I saw their show, I was just so moved. It was unbelievable. Tool, Radiohead, the Beta Band, one of the most underrated bands in the world. The Beta Band, incredible. Aphex Twin is probably the most influential person on my sound.
Why do you say that?
The way he thinks about music and sound is different than any other artist I've ever experienced in my entire life. And he redefined the way I think about sound.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to explain, but he takes music beyond the level of a conventional song to the broken down pieces of the sounds that could make a song. He puts together the most disjointed, awkward parts at times, and he can also structure the most beautiful melodies over riveting drum beats. The guy can do everything, and he does everything. If you listen to his music, you're guaranteed not to be able to like the whole catalog, because he just spans so much ground. He covers all the things you like and all the things you don't like.
Well, he's been quoted himself as saying he doesn't even like his entire catalog, right?
Exactly. And it's the songs that you don't like by him, because they're so well made, they perfectly illustrate the reasons you don't like them. And it enables you to build your musical learning blocks.
Like a sonic palette almost.
Exactly. You can put it together. If you break down his music, you have all the pieces you need to make any sound, any song that you'd ever want to make.
Right. So, what about the argument that, you know, the constant argument that's out there that something like Aphex Twin is not defined as real music, that it's, you know, because it's an electronic format, because it's assembled, you know, and it's not played through quote-unquote real instruments. Respond to that. What is up with that?
Well, when cavemen roamed the earth...
Oh man, you're going back to cavemen?
Yeah, I'm sure that they beat on logs with sticks, because that was what they had.
Right.
And we eventually developed guitars, electric guitars, drums, and people worked with that because that's what they had.
Okay, so this is
and in the 80s and 90s, something called the computer was invented.
Right, yeah. I've heard of these things.
Aphex Twin stuck to using synthesizers for a while because computers weren't yet able to do the things he wanted them to do.
Right.
But they quickly got to a point where you can do amazing, incredible things with computers. And now that's what he's making music with. And right now, some people might look at that and say that's not real music. And in 50 years, people will just think that he's playing an instrument like someone's playing a guitar.
Right, absolutely. Obviously, I agree. You work with me. So, okay, we've done the major artists. Let's get back to our thing. Let's get back to the independents. I want to talk
independents.
The independents, right? The people that need a voice. The people. What are we going to do? We're going to fight for their music, right?
Absolutely.
That's what we're doing. So when you're saying that, what is it that we mean? What are we doing?
There's the big popular bands out there that put out CDs that everyone goes out and buys, but people are getting a product that's so watered down they don't even realize, between the music industry and the production that they pair people with. I mean, a lot of decisions are taken out of those artists' hands at that point,
right,
and they're run as a machine. And bands like The Pit and independent groups around here, to see them work so hard to put together a show and to just rock your absolute nuts off, I mean, it does something that no major act accomplishes at this point. When you see a stadium act perform, I mean, watching from binoculars in the top corner, they don't have the connection to the fans that these small town independent groups are grinding together.
And they don't have that hunger anymore at that point either, right? As
there's a
stadium rock band for the
whether
most part.
Whether they do or not, it can't get across.
Right.
I mean, maybe you're in the absolute perfect spot in the stadium where you get a decent show, but I mean, for the most part, it's not like that. But if you get sweat on and you get screamed at right in front of your face, I mean, it's reinvigorated my love for music, and that's something that I didn't even realize had been waning off a little bit until you start to really get kicked in the ass with the energy that these guys bring.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, we personally went to the last Pit show that was at the Shack in Abbotsford, which had we're not sure who, and it very kind of cool that he was out there and filming and all, but I mean, we almost saw Trevor Hutton from The Pit, the lead singer, almost eat a camera, one of those little hero cams. This guy was so close to him that I mean, this thing was almost
camera on a broomstick. He was sticking it right in Trevor's face, and he just about ate the camera for sure.
And if he had eaten the camera, I hope that cameraman would have run, because I'm sure he would have been next. That's the kind of animalistic behavior that these guys bring.
The question of whether or not someone will eat a digital camera just doesn't come up at a stadium show.
It doesn't, not nearly enough, if at all. If at all. Singed. I want to talk about the band from last week, because they represent something different here at SBS, something that we've played around a little bit with this video interview. Now, that these guys were the first ones that I'd ever sent these videos out to when we first started this whole process.
Yeah.
And you know how much fun I've had getting to know these guys over time, just through the back and forth emails and sending these videos. Now, kind of describe, when you see something like that come back and the work that they've put in, that combination of art and music that I'm always going on and on about how it's missing. Did you feel like was it not like looking at that and going, mission accomplished, message received, you know what I mean? Well done?
I mean, the work that you've put in putting SBS Live together, it's such amazing hard work, and there's so much of it that you've assembled, and I'm so proud of what you've done with that. But to see someone else send stuff in means that the seeds have been planted and that people are itching to get their stuff out there. And I mean, to try and save the world by yourself,
I can't do it alone.
It's impossible.
We can't do it alone. We need these people.
And to see something like that, it encourages me about the state of music and the state of just people's creativity, because I just feel like creativity is lacking nowadays, and people aren't motivated to make good quality entertainment on television, movies,
or again,
albums.
does it come back to that again, to that point that they're drilling home? They just don't have the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is that social media. You know, they're on there all the time. They have to do their own blog updates, all that kind of stuff. You know, so when it comes to, you know, again, we know that Singed is in that situation where they're out there every day, and you know, you touched on the state of music. Corey had fantastic opinions on the state of music. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I loved everything I saw, man. He's got it right on. Corey is the man, buddy. I can't wait to meet you.
Phenomenal, right? And you know, in a mask the whole time, not tying his personal image to the entire interview. You know, or at least I hope, Corey. I hope, man. But like, phenomenal, right?
I'm impressed whether it was just because he felt like wearing a mask that day.
Yeah.
Or because he wanted to separate his image from the music.
Yeah, exactly.
Either or.
We haven't met him. Maybe he just got up that day and he's got, like, you know, 12 different masks over on the side, and he's like, yeah, this is the one today.
Maybe he woke up on the couch after a raucous party with the mask already on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that could very well have happened.
Or maybe that's just his face.
More on that later. We'll find out. So, taking it a bit further, how about the music itself? What's different about the music of Singed? It's kind of maybe dark, murky. It's got that arty feel to it without even having to see the visual element.
It's atmospheric. It blends electronic and acoustic instruments. Those are all things that I'm really, really into. I love the sound of guitar made to be more of a keyboard sound,
right?
Or played in creative new ways. Like, people need to look at their instruments differently, and some people do and some people don't. And whenever you see someone look at an instrument a way that you've never looked at it before, it's amazing to me.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, seeing Jonesy from Sigur Rós hitting his guitar with a bow the entire concert. Right. That's just how he plays guitar.
Yeah, like, and the first time you see something like that, it's an experience in itself, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, Singed has done a lot of intricate guitar work that goes on in the background of their tracks and provides like a pulsing groove that I really enjoy. It merges really well with electronic sounds.
Now, we've touched on Singed having that quality that we look for. We're really looking for two all the time, accompanied with some great music, but a band with something to say or something to prove. We always say that the Pit's got something to prove when we're talking, and we know that Singed has got something to say. So the world needs this. Am I wrong? Like, I mean, like, the world needs that combination of art and music, I think. That visual representation, that's something unique that, you know, really can tie in, that I just don't think people are taking advantage of, or again, they don't have the time as an indie artist to do it.
I mean, creativity, I believe, is something that people can develop as a skill, right. But like you say, it takes time. And I mean, some people are more adept to the learning process than others. Some people learn instruments really quickly and things like that. But having skill on an instrument is a different thing than being able to compose a good song or knowing which sounds sound good together. Okay. And Singed is really, they're right up my alley sonically, the way that they piece their songs together. I really enjoyed the different instrumentation.
Right. So the way that people listen to music and how they kind of hear certain aspects as well, and how some of them, you know, like you said, they can pick up an instrument and they can maybe play it right away, you know, or find where they're supposed to be in the song, regardless of their training. It's kind of like that for the message on these videos as well. I mean, these bands could handle these things like a Skype interview if they wanted to, right? Like, that's their option.
It's as much as or as little effort back as you feel like providing, right?
Right.
I mean, same for anything. I mean, you get what you put into it.
Right.
And, you know, some bands are really into promotion and art, and I mean, I get the feeling from Singed that they wouldn't have it any other way but to make their videos themselves.
Right.
And
yeah.
I mean, that's really, it's exciting to see. It's really cool.
Because they have that point of view. That's something to say, right? And yeah, I think
it shows to me that they care about their art.
Right, right. And it's not to ever take away from the people that have this quote unquote something to prove. Those people are out there really pushing the limits all the way in just like the opposite end of the spectrum, though. Is that accurate? Like,
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's not, neither of those are
like a dominant quality.
A negative
Right.
or a positive.
Yeah.
Like, they're both positive qualities.
And they can both be manifested in both sides, too.
It's just, it speaks to inspiration. And some people have more difficult situations or things in their life that lead them through life in a certain way, and they end up with something to prove because of that.
Right.
And other people maybe had it easy and had time sitting around to think about the mysteries of life and came out with something to say.
Right.
And I'm not saying that growing up hard or growing up easy necessarily means one of those two things, but your life path dictates what kind of person you are, and true honest music is a reflection of what kind of person you are.
Right.
And that just manifests in the same way they control their life.
Okay. So, I mean, not that we try to dwell on the negative or anything like that, but when you see a train wreck band either playing live or you hear something recorded that you're thinking to yourself, like, how did you let yourself get away with that? Is that kind of like letting yourself slip musically, or not being responsible to the music? How does that work?
Well, every situation is different. I idolize Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse.
Okay.
As an artist, as a musician, and from what the interviews and things I've seen with him, he's an incredible person. At their earlier shows, he would get rampaging drunk and not be able to perform. And for him, it was just a maturation process. He got to a point where he realized people are paying money to come see him, and as an adult, he should provide the service of a good rock show. And with heavy drinking, he wasn't able to do it. And he toned it down and was able to continue on, rocking while having some beers.
Right.
And a band like Throw Rag, when you see them mopping around the stage, I mean, I can't help but think that those people must be a little off the wall.
Right.
The lead singer of Throw Rag was stripped down to his tighty whities as a third opening band, running around on stage. I mean, he looked so drugged out he might die at any second.
Okay.
And I mean, it wasn't music that was enjoyable at all. It wasn't even decipherable. It was absolutely horrible. And I would tend to think that person has probably got some issues. It sure looked like it from my seat.
Fair assessment, right? Like, at the end of the day. But, we've also seen people like, let's go into the personalities behind the music for a second. That one's fine. Let's go into the personalities behind the music for a second. When you're saying that, they might be a defined way, what about somebody like, again, Trevor Hutton? This guy turns into an animal, but you've met this band. What are these guys like behind the music?
I mean, they're really fun guys. They're really cool, and they really care about their music. I mean, they each care about their instruments individually and as a band. And I mean,
I'm going to lead you all the way to exactly what I want you to say in this particular one, because this is important. Trevor Hutton is like the nicest guy on the planet. And I mean, that's a straight up fact. And when he goes up to the microphone, he is not even the same guy.
I mean, all three of them, to be fair, but Trevor is especially, I mean, with his voice, it's like a voice that's not his.
Right.
I mean, and it speaks to something special about their music. Again, I am really interested in music, not individual instruments or parts or a person's singing or whatever. I'm interested in how it all comes together, and his roar combined with the effort behind their instruments. I mean, they all put it out so hard that it looks like they're otherworldly. They're more than the sum of their parts.
Right.
And that's what interests me about music. So I mean, the guy goes from being the nicest guy you've ever seen to just being a raging beast. And you know, it's the same person, but
Yeah.
it's because he unites into something more.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I want to take a look at some of that right now. You?
Let's do it.
Okay. So here for you guys on SBS Live, we're going to show you a video because we are still a music show, despite that we're just sitting here talking it out. Now, the other day we had the boys over from the pit. They stopped by SBS HQ to review some footage from 3 of their latest shows that they've done here in Vancouver at the Media Club, the Shack, and the latest one at the Cellar. Everything's turning out awesome. This DVD that we're collaborating on and putting together with them, you know, has just been phenomenal. The videos that have come out so far, the ones for Closer, You Never Go Full Baby Face, Dead, and of course the new one that just absolutely caught fire, which is called The Machine. These are just turning out exactly how we're hoping they would. So we're very proud to present them, and we'd like to show you one more today. So here is a video that they were completely stoked on themselves. I asked them if they wanted effects, and they said, no way, man, leave it as is. And I don't blame them, because it's absolutely awesome. So here's a song from the pit. This is called Tug Room.
This song is so fucking old. You guys wouldn't even believe it. We've been in the band for so long. This is fucking old school shit. Yeah!
see something like that, that's what you're looking for in a live act when you go to a show?
Absolutely. I mean, pure force.
Right. Alright, so even though he's here all the time, I just want to say thanks again, Rob. I appreciate everything you do here, and I appreciate your time here in the studio, just like I appreciate every band that's rolled through here. So happy to have you back again for part 2 next week, and have you give us that studio tour and show everybody what I kind of don't really touch on through the interviews. There's a really cool place here that I haven't really shown yet, and I'm happy to let Rob be the first to introduce you to that. So that's back again on Sunday, coming up here on SBS Live this week with part 2 of Rob at SBS. Other than that, register for the Thrice contest. There's about a month to go in registration left, so if you haven't downloaded the songs, if you haven't started working on them, your time is just about to close. You've got a month to register. After that, it's time for judgment. That's just how these things go. So do that. I also highly recommend checking out facebook.com/The Great Canadian Hit List with radio host from Vancouver, Jeff Jeffries. And the reason why I say this specifically this week is because he got to talk about some awesome things on episode 5 of his podcast. I was lucky enough to be co-host, and that's really just because I guess I had a few extra things to say this week, and this was all regarding the island trip that we took over to see James Casper and bands like This Day Burns, Man-Made Lake, Chelsea Lynn, Carrie Jane, Kyle Truelove. You get the idea. So he got to actually show or talk about all this stuff before I did. I'm super jealous. That's coming up later in the year. We're going to do a 2-part island special for you and show you what we found over there on the island, because there's some amazing talent there, and we definitely want to start having a regular visit to see what's going on, because we were missing out on a lot. You can also find out more about it at my blog, sleepingbagstudios.ca/blog.html. That's it for me this week. That's it for us. That's it for Rob at SBS. I'll post another funny picture of him here at the end of the show. But yeah, I'm looking forward to more on Sunday, so we'll see you then on SBS Live this week.